What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name is Michael Roman, aka Allfires. I know you guys started to see a ton of reactions to Black Widow yesterday around the industry as Marvel Studios officially lifted the reaction embargo. I myself had access to a pre-screener, but was also invited to the premiere out in LA, and because you only get to do one, I chose to go to the live premiere in a week or so. So I will be reacting early to Black Widow. You'll get all my thoughts, but that will be a week from Monday after I've actually seen it at the premiere in LA. Yes, small flex, my reaction to the film is coming. In the meantime, we have to talk about this most recent headline. You know, Marvel and DC have never been able to ever shake comparisons to each other. This has been going on for decades, not just recently with their cinematic universes, and now a new headline talking about James Gunn openly admitting that he's talked to the powers that be at both DC and Marvel about a major crossover. We're going to break down exactly what he said in his social media, even cover a real recent quote from Kevin Feige about this matter as well, and speculate just a little bit, could we ever see an actual Marvel DC crossover down the road on the silver screen? We're going to break it all down, but first, if you could grab the subscribe button. We're still giving away a PlayStation 5 now at 900,000 subscribers, as well as Disney Plus subscriptions every week while the shows are live, and we're now giving away an Avengers 118 CGC graded in a 9.4 signature series. That means they were there live in person when it was signed by Loki Tom Hiddleston and Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch, who happened to feature side by side on the cover and in the story. If you want to be entered to win the PlayStation, the giveaways, any of the other stuff, all the same rules will always apply. Hit the subscribe button, then leave a comment down below, and if you want, stick around to the end of the video. We'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. So as I made mention just moments ago in the prologue, the comparisons between DC and Marvel have always been there long before the cinematic universes. This is going back decades, fans pointing to certain superheroes or villains, narrative arcs, characters, even crossovers, and saying, hey, you just copied the other guys. Well, real recently, when asked point blank on his social media, James Gunn had to weigh in with this quote about a possible DC Marvel crossover in the future for the franchises on the silver screen. Quote, I've casually talked to the powers that be at both Marvel and DC about it. I would love for it to happen. I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's an impossibility either. That said, just constantly seeing crossovers and mashups is less enchanting to me than a strong story. He went on to say, quote, I find it disconcerting at times that many folks seem more interested in crossovers, cameos, references, and post-credit scenes than they do in the actual story and the characters of the specific film. While making a film, I spend 99.9% of my time thinking about the story and character and 0.1% thinking about the rest. Now, obviously, James Gunn is a unique voice amongst all of this because currently he's still a director and producer over at Marvel and doing the same over at DC, even during that brief stint where he was fired after Guardians of the Galaxy 2 for some very off-color but obviously joking tweets. He was still a producer on Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, so he's worked at the highest echelons with both companies. DC basically gave him carte blanche and told him to pick whatever he wanted of the DC franchises, so the fact that he's been the one that sort of talked to both sides in an attempt to, I wouldn't say broker this, but at least see if there was a possibility there, and he's not ruling it out as a complete impossibility, definitely gives us hope that it could someday happen. However, you have to imagine with the state of the current franchises, how many Marvel properties are coming one after another. The major plan that Kevin Feige has in place for phases 4, 5, and 6, trying to follow up the Infinity Saga, and the relative shambles and state of disrepair that the DCEU, if we're even calling it that anymore, is in. You'd have to imagine that a lot of things would have to happen between now and then for this to even become a possibility. Think about it. Kevin Feige and co. were cautious too, and then didn't end up canonizing any of the shows that were somewhat under Marvel before they reassumed the rights. So shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., shows like Netflix's Daredevil, Punisher, those were not canonized. And of course, the Fox universe, forget about it. Well, unless the multiverse goes ahead and canonizes all those by the end of the year leading up to Multiverse of Madness, and maybe even so with the upcoming Spider-Man. That aside, if they weren't willing to do that, why in the world would they want to touch the DCEU that has multiple Batman? Shoot, we don't even know who's going to be in charge of the DC Cinematic Universe when it's all said and done with the recent merger of Discovery and Warner. However, that is a topic for a completely different video. We need to hone in on Kevin Feige. He's in charge of this all, and in a roundabout way, he was asked about this same thing. However, it wasn't the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DCEU, it was the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Wars. Keep in mind, Star Wars owned by the same parent company in Disney as Marvel Studios, so you could imagine if there's room for some sort of multi-franchise crossover, it would be easier for Star Wars and the MCU to get done than DC. And this is what he had to say in reaction to being asked if he could ever see an MCU Star Wars crossover. Quote, "If you'd asked me if anything we're talking about right now was in the realm of possibility 20 years ago, I would have said, I don't think so," he shared with Yahoo Entertainment. He then goes on to say, "But I really don't think so. I don't think there's any reason for it." Now listen, by him saying I don't think there's any reason for it, that is a really nice way of saying that's just a ridiculous idea. You don't need to cross over these franchises that don't exist in the same universes just for the idea of making money. Plus, how would you write a story that makes any sense? Marvel Studios' Kevin Feige have constantly said they prioritize good storytelling over cameos. That's why we didn't get a Beta Ray Bill in Thor Ragnarok, and a couple of other times we might have seen ancillary and tertiary characters. They decided to leave them out. They said if you can't do a story or a character justice, you don't do it at all. That's what James Gunn was hearkening back to when he said he gets sick and tired of people focusing in on post-credit scenes or an Easter egg instead of the story. Now, I don't want to go ahead and defend the fan base, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. James Gunn is one of my favorite, if not my favorite directors in the world. I'm obviously a huge fanboy of everything Disney and Marvel does, but what I will say about the fan base focusing in on the Easter eggs, the references, and the cameos, I don't think that comes at the expense of how much we love the stories. I think we care about that so much because we love the characters and the stories so much. It's an ode to you, James Gunn, that we loved Guardians of the Galaxy and those characters, that we love the MCU and those characters so much that we are obsessed about every little detail. And maybe you're right, maybe sometimes people do focus on the wrong things, but hey, the connoisseur and the consumer are not the same thing. Thank God for that. Those who make the art are not on the same level as those who consume the art for the most part, and you have to let the consumer consume. That's part of it. They get to like things for whatever reason, dislike things for whatever reason, focus on whatever they want, and well, that's the part of the consumer. I'm happy to be a part of that as well. Guys, let me know all your thoughts down below if you would ever want to see a DC versus Marvel crossover on the big screen, and if you could only see one matchup, yep, one character from the MCU and one character from the DCEU go at it, Batman versus Spider-Man, Superman versus Sentry, who would it be and why? Guys, I am all ears. This is the best part of comic fandom. Let me know down in the comments, and quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff again before I let you go. We're still giving away that PlayStation 5 now at 900,000 subscribers, as well as Disney Plus subscriptions every week while the shows are live. They're usually announced in the Easter egg video after we do the live watch party the night before. We're also giving away this amazing CGC signature series graded in a 9.4 Avengers 118. It's signed by Tom Hiddleston and Elizabeth Olsen. The signature series by CGC means they were there in person when it's signed. You can't get the yellow label unless CGC actually witnesses those autographs, so you know they're authentic. The comic book is in absolutely beautiful shape in a 9.4, and a really awesome one at that. If you want to be entered to win any of the giveaways, all the same rules will always apply. Hit that subscribe button because you need to be a subscriber, then leave a comment down below because it's truly random. The more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners will be randomly selected and announced at the end of videos the same way we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with notifications turned on, and as always, if you enjoyed today's video, I would appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. My name is Michael Roman. You can find me in a couple of places, Instagram and Twitter under I Am Fires. You can also find me on Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Apple, wherever you find your original music under the name All Fires. I have a brand new song coming out next week. Thanks so much for checking out the channel, guys, and stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.